How can you get people out of your league to want to talk with you? Now in the world, we want things to go easy and we think we have a good life. So because I wasn't cynical about the ad, I took the chance, and in that case, the chance won. People vastly overestimate how much money you really need to have to be wealthy. What would you do if you had $1 trillion?
I wouldn't take that money because I didn't earn it. It's about the journey of who you become.
AI and robotics will be, for people who know how to do it, the greatest hack to give you your time back. People who try to resist the inevitable, it's going to rob you of your time because it's going to take your job from you.
Hi everyone, I'm Atena Pegler. Welcome back to my show, Entrepreneur Success Stories. We took about maybe a year break and we brought back the show when we have a very, very special guest today. And after a year of getting break, we have Ty Lopez with us.
All right, thanks for having me.
One of the top 10 most influential people in the business world, entrepreneur, investor, and as everyone know that most of us know Ty Lopez from his very, very first famous Here He Is in My Garage, and with the Lamborghini, lots of books, and which basically went viral and became one of the best, I would say, online advertisement in the world in all time. And also the 67 Steps, I would say that's one of the Ty Lopez most popular programs. And the 70 multiplier of the wealth that I started hearing recently. We would love to find out a bit more about that. Hi, Ty.
Hey, how are you? How does this compare to living globally? You like LA?
Yeah, I do. I do like LA, and heard some stuff about the California and the challenges started, they were thinking, oh, wait, should I move here? Or, yeah, I love LA. A lot of business opportunities and very, very successful entrepreneurs that I met attended the Ty Lopez mastermind over the weekend, met a lot of successful people. And surprisingly, I attended a lot of mastermind and I was quite impressed by the people that were there, like, how many of you want to be billionaires? And a good portion of people raised their hand. A lot of ambitious people and really, really high net worth. Really enjoyed the party as well.
Yeah, that was fun. Got to end with a good party.
Yeah. Gonna start with the first question. Speaking about the 70 multiplier of the wealth, which is my interest at the moment.
Yes.
So from those 70 multipliers, one thing that grabbed my attention was catching the trend early.
Yes.
The reason being, and everyone knows Ty Lopez is a perfect example of catching the trend early.
Yeah.
And you've always been really good at that. So number one question, how do you catch the trend early? Number two question, what is the trend at the moment?
Good question. Yeah. I mean, I have these multipliers of wealth. I call them the 7 multiplier or the 7 levers of wealth. You put a little bit of effort in and you get a huge financial result. So what are those? Sometimes I go back and forth which one should be the most powerful lever, but top 2 most powerful levers of wealth. One is your network, who you know. Do you have friends in the right places? Second biggest multiplier of wealth is catching trends early. You don't have to be first, but you got to be early. So, in fact, one of my mentors, Alan Nation, used to say, Ty, never be the first or the last to try a new idea, right? So I would say the simplest way to catch trends early is stop being cynical. They say the number one mental illness in the world is anxiety. Maybe, but I would say it's actually skepticism. And of course, you should be skeptical on some things. But in general, the downside of being skeptical is, yes, you never get scammed, but yes, you never catch a trend early. So yeah, you basically reduce any risk by being skeptical, but you also reduce all the potential big rewards. So it's better to live a life where you get taken advantage of every once in a while, but you stay optimistic, you stay hungry, you don't get jaded. So I think being jaded is the biggest mental illness in the world, especially if you want to make money. I remember what got me started online. I was broke. I was living in a mobile home in Clayton, North Carolina, and I saw this ad on Google, and it was just an image ad. This is before there was even video ads. And the image ad, you could just see the guy's feet. He was like on the beach, and he said, oh, I can remember it word for word. He said, how I made $28,000 laying on the beach in Hawaii yesterday. And I remember thinking, okay, this is probably a scam, but you can't scam me because I had no money. So I was like, you're not going to be able to take advantage of me because there's nothing to take advantage of. So, I ended up buying a course. There's a guy named Corey Rudel. Sadly, he died before I could ever meet him and thank him. But he said, hey, Ty, it wasn't to me directly. I bought his course. It came in the mail. was before video courses, so it was a 3-ring binder, just like old school. And I flipped through it, and what stuck out was like Google Ads is the next big thing. So I started doing Google Ads in 2001. It was only 2 months old. I didn't know that. I didn't even know I caught a trend. So because I wasn't cynical about the ad, and I was just like, maybe I'll lose my money, maybe I won't, I took the chance, and in that case, the chance won. But that goes back to your network, right? I said the 2 most powerful of the levers, the multipliers of wealth, the 7, are who you know and catching trends early. Well, believe it or not, the reason I put as the highest 7th multiplier of wealth your network is because your network usually tells you about trends.
That's true.
Almost all the trends, I've caught like 5 big trends. I caught Google Ads. I was in the Facebook beta ads. That's like 2008, 2009. People are still like, I do Facebook ads work. I'm like, bro, you're 17 years behind the curve. Then I caught YouTube ads in 2014. Also, I was buying businesses in 2003. I bought my first business. That was another trend. And crypto. In 2016, 2017, how did I learn about crypto? I wasn't super early, but 2016 still kind of early. I invited all these top entrepreneurs. A couple of them were on the Forbes list for crypto. And I had met them through other stuff before Bitcoin even existed. And my network, they were like, yo, this Bitcoin thing, Bitcoin then was like 3,500. ETH was about 100 and some. And I caught that early through my network. So get the right network of people. How can you get people out of your league to want to talk with you? It's a little bit like men dating. You know, what all men are trying to do is get a woman who's a little bit out of their league, right? So if a guy thinks he's a 7, then he's like, if I could just get an 8. A lot of guys that are a 7 don't want to get a 10 because they're like, she'll leave me. You know, she'll leave me for Leonardo DiCaprio or whatever. So that's how you got to network in business. Like, how do I get a little bit out of my league? The people that wouldn't normally network with me. And a lot what I did back in 2001, I still do, pay people. It's funny that people don't understand, like, people perceive money as just something financial, but it's also, money is a social tool more than a financial. Financial tool is a make-believe thing. Social's real. Humans have been social for 10,000 years. Humans haven't had money for 10,000 years. So the reality is money is just literally a social tool. If there was no one else on earth, me and you wouldn't need money. If we were the last human like that, what's that Will Smith movie where he's like stuck in the city by himself? He gets to the car. Yeah, I Am Legend. If you're I Am Legend, notice he didn't go to the ATM machine. There's nobody to trade with. So money is social, and you can use money to increase the quality of people. Like, I know the 10th richest man on earth, Steve Ballmer. How do I know him? My pal was like, I'll pay you $250,000 for dinner. And he's like, okay, give it to my charity. That's using money to accelerate networking. As you accelerate your networking, they tell you the next trend. Hey, it's going to be quantum computers. Hey, it's going to be, cyborg. It's going to be robotics. It's going to be desalinization of water. Talking about California. It's like all these trends. If you catch a trend, here's the thing, good news for somebody. If you are good at catching trends and you have confidence enough to proceed, you'll make more money than people who are twice as skilled as you. I tell people, get your fucking confidence back, because all the money in the world won't matter. All this competence and skill in the world won't matter if you don't have confidence. So you have the confidence to network with the right people. The people tell you what they're working on. You get in the first group of people catching a new trend, whether it's drop shipping, whether it's SMMA, ads, AI now is for sure. I mean, I have my AI for my own business. It's running thousands of conversations right now, for example, in my Instagram DMs right now. I used to sit there and try to keep up. I have almost 3 million followers on Instagram. It's hard to keep up. You just miss people. Right now, let me see. I'll guess. I'll just look at the top. We got one. You can just see them coming in. 1, 2, there is loading. I'm going to break Instagram. Once I broke Snapchat and get enough message. So yeah, that's my long answer to your question.
It's good. So AI is basically the trend.
AI is one. Quantum computers one. I would say another trend is, entrepreneurs have existed for a long time, but the rise, I say there's 3 trends to making money. I wrote an ebook called The 3 Trends. Okay. Trend number 1 is the rise of governments. In the past, the trend to catch, if you want to make a lot of money in the 1500s, you needed to go to a government, get them to give you money and an army. So like Christopher Columbus or Pizarro or Cortez, all these conquerors who became the richest men on earth, they first went to Queen Isabella. They went to the queens of Spain, the queens of Portugal, the queens of England, and, what's his name? Sir Drake or whatever, Sir Francis Drake. They had to get a government to back them, and then they could become wealthy. Then, a couple hundred years later, the rise of the corporations. Instead of governments, private governments, it came to pass. That's essentially a corporation is a private government. It even has a governing constitution. You call it the Articles of Incorporation. That's like the Constitution. And you call the CEO is like the president. So you had Rockefeller, Vanderbilt, Carnegie, JP Morgan. These were the original founders of what we call corporations. So from the 1800s to today has been the rise of corporations. But in the last 10 years, because of social media, you now have the rise of the individual. So I would say the other trend besides AI is personal brands. So I predict there'll be 1 million strong personal brands, conservatively as many as 10 million. I'm not talking about being an influencer and like twerking. I'm talking about group.
AI influencer.
Yeah, well, that too. There'll be that too. That
There's already existed.
Yeah, especially like OnlyFans. If you want to do OnlyFans now and you're a dude, all you do, you make an AI woman. There's guys giving money all day. Oh, you don't even know. I don't even know if guys care. Yeah, that'll be a trend. AI, virtual AI. Dudes are going to marry AI wives. And then our guys are already going to marry robots, like female fembots. It's kind of, I can't tell if it's sad or not. Part of me thinks Charles Darwin would be happy because it's getting rid of those men's genes out of the gene pool because you can't procreate with a robot. So I was rereading, I think Sigmund Freud, even though a lot of people think he's a discredited psychologist. I mean, he invented psychology. Of all the people I've ever read, nobody's as brilliant as Sigmund Freud, even though he was wrong on some things. But Sigmund Freud said, when he was speaking of the modern world in Civilization is Discontents, his best book ever, he said, maybe we're hurting the world by our advances. You should let some people just die off. So the dudes who fall in love with an AI OnlyFans girl, the guy who in Japan who I saw a dude marry a robot, a hot robot, and he was like kissing her. He had like 3 wives. That's one way for dude to have a harem. By the way, if you want to catch weird trends, Japan has the weirdest trends. And that's one where guys, but I'm like, maybe Freud is right. Maybe this dude should not procreate. Maybe you should start up. Maybe I should start one of those fembots. I'll call it darwiniandream.com.
That's your next business. So speaking of the AI, what stage of AI do you think we are? Like if you compare with .com bubble,
right?
Are we at the...
No, we're not at the bubble. We're at 1994. AI is at the Jeff Bezos inflection point. I'll tell you this, if anything, we're too early. My biggest mistakes in life, I've been too early. My first business I started as a teenager was a grass-fed beef company with Joel Salatin. We bought 60 cows. I raised them in Virginia near his farm. Back then, grass-fed beef was looked down upon. You wanted the non-grass-fed beef sold for the most in restaurants. So that was my first profitable business. I sold, and my cut was $12,000 for 1 year's work. I remember being like, this is a lot of money, boy. When I got that check for $12,000, I was like, this is crazy money, boy. Because I was living on a farm. I had no expenses, and I was only 19. So I think that if anything, AI is a little too early. A good rule of thumb is 10 years from the first company starting. That is the ideal. So ChatGPT is the first big AI company. But AI, ChatGPT is like a 2016 company. So technically 2026, but I like to get in a little early than the ideal. The ideal is about 10 years. Like, for example, Mark Zuckerberg came in about 10 years after the internet started and built Facebook. Now, there was MySpace before there was, Friendster before, there was chat rooms. And remember, the internet started in the 60s. This is what people don't know. The internet was started because scientists were concerned about nuclear war and losing communication through telephones. That's what people used to use, and the mail. So the internet is really not Jeff Bezos catching the trend in 1994 early. It had started in the 60s. Now, it needed time to progress. Humans are skeptical, they fear change, they're risk averse, and therefore it took from the 60s to 94. But I think AI, we're in not even in the early stage, we're in the pre-early stage
Oh, wow.
of AI. By next year, we'll be in early stage. That'll last about 10 years. Now with AI, due to its nature, maybe I'm going to give it 5. So you have about until 2030 to really catch the trend. And the people who learn AI, you'll have your first trillionaire is going to come out of, there's never been a trillionaire in history.
That was my next question, actually.
There's never been a trillionaire before AI in history, except the conquerors. Julius Caesar, estimated net worth $1 trillion. He controlled the Western world. Genghis Khan later estimated 100 trillion if you ask ChatGPT. Third, Napoleon Bonaparte. Only way to be a trillionaire in human history was to control an army. That's why Elon Musk, they said, "Are you rich?" And he quoted Napoleon. He goes, "You're only rich if you control legions, if you control an army." But now with AI, think of it, AI agents and AI as a technology is an army. You can deploy infinity. I can do 10,000 phone calls a minute for my company to set appointments with people with AI agents. So that's why I said they'll be the first trillionaire will come out. It could be, I told everybody this Sam Altman guy, the co-founder of ChatGPT, I was like, this guy might be the first trillionaire. And people go, there's no way, it's a nonprofit. Well, guess what he did? He flipped it from a nonprofit to a for-profit. Elon Musk flipped out, said it was unethical. I don't know what's true about that, but and the guy paid himself $7 billion in one day.
So you believe that a random AI startup, no one knows, not one of those people in the fall, suddenly come, build something amazing, and become a first trillionaire, or AI trillionaire, I would say?
I'll say there'll be many millionaires that you've never heard of. There'll be some billionaires with 1 employee or 0 employees. Trillionaire, you're going to need to own. A lot of AI businesses are now what they call wrappers. So they took a business, they took ChatGPT, or they took Claude, or they took, they're called LLMs, these platforms, and they wrapped around them to build a product. Those will not become trillion-dollar companies because they can be emulated and they don't have proprietary tech. But Larry Ellison, 4th richest man in the world, he's controlling now nuclear power plants. So to become a trillionaire, you'll probably have to own a lot of nuclear power plants. That's what Mark Zuckerberg's focused on. That's what Elon Musk says is the race is for, the chips. Who can manufacture the chips, which is mostly done in Taiwan now, which is a big issue because America, we don't control where we get basically all of the technology for AI is not in the U.S. So Donald Trump's idea is to add tariffs to start getting manufacturing in the United States. We'll see. There's some good idea. Tariffs are a tricky one, but if you can do them right, maybe they work. But in terms of who, will there be a random kid who becomes a trillionaire? Maybe, but it might make a mill to a bill. That's a lot of money. People vastly overestimate how much money you really need to have to be wealthy. I mean, I have a friend who played pro basketball, Chris Paul. He's made over $500 million playing basketball with contracts plus his endorsements, shoes, State Farm. And we were talking about a friend of his, I won't say who, a very famous person, one of the wealthiest artists in America. And he was like, he called me, Ty, and he said, because Chris Paul had a choice between staying at the LA Clippers or going to Houston. If he stayed in LA, he probably wouldn't win a championship, but he had the chance to make a lot of money, a huge contract. Or he could go to Houston where he felt like he had a chance to win a championship, but he'd make half the money. And his billionaire friend said, there ain't no difference between 300 million and 400 million. So he took the lower dollar amount because at some point, so I tell people, yeah, if you could want it, I'm not even sure. Look, if somebody who said, Ty, do you want to be a trillionaire? I'd be like, no, because people underestimate security. I have security. I've had it for a long time. I've still had people go to prison, breaking into properties and stuff. So you look at right now, Mark Zuckerberg's spending about 1.2 million a month on private security.
Oh, wow.
So Matt, if you're a trillionaire, it's actually a mistake. you would not have a good life. You would be fully unable to do anything interesting. I saw a guy on Instagram today. He decided to walk from England to Vietnam. Okay. So he's literally walking England, Belgium. He was in Turkey. He's going to come. I'm not sure how he got across the channel. Maybe he swam the English channel. But I was thinking, man, that's freedom, and I used to have more freedom like that. Like, I've done things like that. If you're a trillionaire, all that kind of freedom gets taken away. And so I actually think it would be a mistake to try to be a trillionaire. I think you'll have a decrease in life, happiness, satisfaction. So you got to find the optimal point for you, If you don't mind, if you're a hermit, maybe $1 trillion. But then what do you do with it? What would you do if you had $1 trillion? That's 1,000 billion.
I would love to open a charity for entrepreneurs, non-for-profit.
But you know what?
Franchisee all around the world.
But $1 trillion's not even enough to change the world. That's the thing. People are like, Ty, I want to become a trillionaire so I can change the world. I'm like, that's not enough. America, our debt is 33 trillion in the US. So I'm not saying $1 trillion is not a lot. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying more money, more problems. Be careful. Joel Salatin used to tell me, Ty, be careful what you wish for because you might get it and then regret it.
Fair enough.
You need to make 100. When you make 100, you decide if that's enough.
So imagine, assume, you have all
That's
the
very
stuff-
Persian of you.
Yeah.
Persians have no limit on how much money they should make. I'm telling you, Persian, the only people I've ever met as a group, I have a lot of Persian friends. Persian people in the culture, in the genes, back to King Darius or, Xerxes or whatever I forget the exact Persian kings, but these jokers were like, I'm going to make $1 trillion or die. The Persian Empire was this massive empire for a long time. Of course, the movie 300, that was one of the final big battles for the Persian Empire. But my Persian friends, if you're like, bro, we should make $1 billion, they'll be like, that's not enough. I need $1 trillion. Oh, like $1 trillion? Come on. It's like, nah, I won't be happy. Trillion or bust.
It's actually funny because when I grew up, my mom was always saying anyone's rich, they either work for government or they are into drugs. So I grew up with the idea of being rich is not a good thing.
Yeah.
So, and I never wanted to be rich because of that reason, because if rich, they're drug dealer or they work for government. And then I started really going to personal development stuff a few years ago with Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
And there's something that he said that he really clicked with me.
Yeah.
And I had a breakthrough. That was this sentence. Your bank account shows how many lives you change.
Right.
And that just clicked with me. And I was like, you could look at the money and the way that the more money you make, that means the more people you help. You don't need to look at it as kind of, this is for me. Because if you think of it, that's true, right?
I wouldn't say help the most people you've affected. So Pablo Escobar was making $1 billion a week. At one point, he was making $1 billion cash. He was affecting a lot of lives. I don't know if he was helping them. So there's some truth to what your mom said. A lot of wealth is created through ruthless tactics. But for sure, the more money you have, there's a couple things. I mean, Albert Einstein invented nuclear power as we know it in the nuclear bomb, one of the founding thinkers. I would say he changed the world more than any billionaire. So you could be a scientist, you can be an inventor, philosophers, people who they say that the pen is mightier than the sword, people who start religions, the founders of religions. Muhammad changed the world, Jesus Christ, Buddha, Confucius, 6,000 years ago, I think, roughly, Confucius, or 4,000, he was writing down, the analects of, and so, yeah, money is one way if you can pull it off. But remember, money's like a pit bull. When it's on your side, it can be your best friend, but if you're not careful, turn around and eat your throat out. And so a lot of people with money, I tell them, I'm like, money and power are not a passive thing. In fact, I have a lot of private clients. I launched a generation of entrepreneurs. I was the founder of the SMMA movement, which is probably launched the most entrepreneurs in modern history. And I see some of my most successful students having a lot of depression problems. There's a kid in South America. He had $7 million in his bank account from using my online business and internet marketing systems. He had $7 million in his bank account in South America, and he wasn't even 18 yet.
Oh, wow.
And really, I still mentor him. He's now about 20. He's like, man, I struggle with depression. I know a lot Basically, the richest kid from the internet in almost every country in the world is one of my students. It's crazy. Not tech guy, but anybody who, most of the people, the richest guys that I know, the young guys in Denmark and Greece and South America, they came through my stuff and they do struggle. They're like, so I know a guy, I saw Alex Becker. He had me at his conference and I saw him on Twitter recently and he said making a lot of money super young is actually a curse.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
like I said, Sigmund Freud said, God has been good to me. Life has been good to me. Nothing came easy. That was his definition of good life. It's kind of backwards. Now in the world, we want things to go easy, then we think we have the good life. But Sigmund Freud, one of the smarter humans ever walked the planet, is like, no, he's had a good life because nothing came easy. So if you make your first billion or trillion or, when you're too young to handle it, it's the pit bull turns around and kills you. Lots of people. Look at all the successful people that commit suicide. Look, I often think of, Hollywood. Think about Heath Ledger, on top of the world, all the money in the world, good-looking dude. Like, if you were Heath Ledger, guys, you do well when you go out to a club. Trust me. You just life on easy mode. And inevitably, half the people that have life too easy get depressed, get on drugs, commit suicide, accidentally die with overdoses. Hollywood's full of people. Marilyn Monroe. Look at Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley had it all, man. One of my first 67 steps, I talked about Elvis Presley. And this is in the 50s, in the 60s. For him to show up, he would always just say, give me $1 million. $1 million, hand it up. That was a lot that was like 50 million bucks. So Elvis was getting paid $50 million to just sing, which he did naturally. He was a great singer and musician. By the time he's late 30s, he's depressed, he's overweight, he's addicted to drugs, he's dead. Look at Michael Jackson. I think Michael Jackson signed a $1 billion contract with Pepsi. Billion, when nobody had ever done billion. So that's why I said, money is not something to be trifled with. And when you set your goals, just make sure you know what you're going for, because most people can't handle it. Most people should make $1 million a year is good. You won't be able to handle more. Some people can handle $1 billion. Maybe you can handle $1 trillion. If you make $1 trillion, I'll be like, I was on her podcast.
I guess the difference is that how hard you work for it. If it came easy, yes. Like people that win the jackpot, they usually go jump off the bridge.
Yes.
Or the example that we said the other day, if someone give you $1 billion, you kill a drunk 75 years old Indian, would you do that? And some people say, yes, I would. Some people say I wouldn't because of the karma. But what I thought immediately, I was like, I wouldn't take that money because I didn't earn it. It's about the journey of who you become.
Right.
And if someone give you easy $1 billion, I can promise you're going to lose that because you don't have a skill set of knowing how to keep the money.
Yes.
How to grow the money. So I guess like the pattern is that if the success come easily, we don't know how to handle it because you didn't earn it. You didn't work hard for it. But if someone works so hard for it, do you think that they would go down the path of depression too? They earn really hard?
Complicated. That's what I say. That's why there's an old saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. That means everybody who gets too much power politically gets corrupted. Everybody. So I kind of feel like money is similar. But for sure, some people can handle it more than others. For example, the head of the Norwegian Sovereign Fund is a guy who manages over $1 trillion. Okay. He managed. Norway is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. I've lived there before, and people
he's
think
not depressed, no?
Well, no, not only he's not depressed, but he only pays himself $200,000 a year.
Right.
He can handle. He lives in an apartment. He's a famous guy for living super humble. That's the kind of guy you want to become a trillionaire because it has no effect on him. And that's very rare. If you gave your friend $10 million sack of money, you might be turning him into a crackhead. You might be turning him into an alcoholic. You might be killing your friend.
Cares.
Yeah.
So what about the kids? Like if you have a lot of money,
yes,
how do you want to make sure that it's not a curse to them because they have easy money? What would you do?
I like what Shaquille O'Neal, the basketball player, says. He says his kids want to fly in his jet and all that. He's like, you're poor, I'm rich. He's like, I get to use all the money, you don't get any of it. So that's probably the best approach to raising kids when you have money. Is you be like, I'm rich, you're poor, so you're going to do
You're not gonna work hard to buy
Yeah,
jet for
I have
stuff.
kids. My son sometimes I have maids, assistants, and all that. And once in a while, he's young. I catch him telling one of the maids what to do. I'm like, don't listen to him. He ain't paying you. I'm like, you gotta go get your own food. So you have to make sure your kids aren't remotely spoiled, or they'll just be ruined. Also, when you make your first million, if you have kids, you should buy a farm. I have a farm. You want your kids growing up on a farm, because on a farm, everybody's equal. Like I live with the Amish for there's no rich guy, poor guy. Everybody, you go out and milk your cows in the morning. So I try to spend 30% of my time or more on my farm just to stay grounded. Like Beverly Hills here is a place you can get very ungrounded. I mean, my neighbors are some of these people have $500 million in their checking account. You know what I mean? And so if your kids grow up around that environment, there is some good to it, though, by the way. So it's like, I want my kids to grow up, some in Beverly Hills, some on the farm, some in Europe, where Europe has a whole nother culture around money. It's like an old money. America's new money. Okay. The farm is no money. Doesn't matter what you have. You're not important. And Europe is old money. So that means you make money, but you show it off very lightly. No gold toilets. No, that's America. That's America. So I think you want your kids to grow up a little bit in the new money, so they see people hustling from zero to their first million. You want your kids growing up on the farm where everybody's equal. Doesn't matter if you have $1 million or not. Nobody on a farm cares. And then you want them probably growing up some in Europe where they learn some of the old money stuff is good. You know, you learn to be educated. You learn to be well-read. You learn to know Beethoven and Bach and Brahms and Spinoza and, so that old money vibe, you really want yourself and your kids to be a blend of farmer, old money, new money. The three-way. I need to launch a new course on that. The three-way. I wouldn't say the triune human. I won't say the Trinity because that'll be blasphemous, but yeah.
So are you homeschooling your kids?
Yeah.
They are in school age?
Young enough. My kids are young. So
they're not a school age yet.
Yeah, or they do a little bit of school, but I think homeschool's usually the best bet.
A bit of change of the topic.
Yeah.
Speaking of your success stories.
Yeah.
So what is one of your top success stories that you would love to share?
You mean from somebody else that I've mentored?
Your clients. Yeah. One of your past clients.
This will sound cocky, but I have so many testimonials that at one point I hired a full-time lawyer to vet them. I'm like, nobody's going to believe when I show 10,000. So I told him he spent all day calling, verifying, getting tax returns. So not only do I have testimonials, but I have like verified ones, which I don't think anybody on earth has ever done. So I mean,
One
like
name.
50%.
One name.
One
What is
name.
going to talk about? That is very successful. Like someone that has a big company now, very successful.
Well, I'll tell you people who have said that I got my start in Thai stuff, and I was in Thai stuff, that followed me, and they've said it publicly. So it's like Iman Ghazi is somebody, Sam Ovens is somebody, that worked with me very closely. But I mean, it's better to say who didn't. Who didn't? Gary Vee didn't. He started his personal
Gary
brand.
used to be your client?
No, Gary Vee did not learn from me. He was a year or two before me. That's why I said, when you ask me, Ty, how many people have you influenced that are entrepreneurs now? I'm like, it's better to do the other way. Who haven't I? A lot of Mr. Beast is somebody who has, or has followed me for almost a decade and gone through my stuff. So, but you know what? The coolest stories are the ones also that people don't know. I was just in Brazil. I did a mastermind there with my group and in Sao Paulo, and a guy came who's been following me for years. In 2020, he started a software company in Brazil from zero. It's kind of like a ClickFunnels kind of company.
Yeah.
Not exactly. It's like WAP is, like kind of that, like Skool. It's a little different, but it's the Brazilian version. He's offered $500 million 4 or 5 years later. 4 years later. So, and he owns 50%. He made 250. That's a rags to riches guy who followed me, made 250 million. I'll tell you a good story is when I first started 67 Steps, I was at a Lakers game and I was down. Finally, I could afford, in my life to sit down there on the floor seats. Those are like 25,000 a piece, right? So I was down there and these 3 kids yelled down to me, "Hey, Ty, we learned entrepreneurship. We're in your 67 Steps. We want to give you like a percentage of our company." And I couldn't get to them because of the way security was. Well, 6 months later or 9 months later, I look in the news, they sold their watch company called Movement Watches for like $150 million. So that's a cool story, the founders of Movement Watch. And I watch people who follow me. It's funny, whenever I go to contact somebody, I see if they've DM'd me years ago. There's a new AI app called Cal AI. It's crazy, 2 million MRR. It's only 9 months old, using AI to build a calorie tracking app. I went to his Twitter because I was going to invite him on the podcast. I'm like, this guy already follows me. So I've been, I don't say that in a bragging way. It's given me a unique ability to see what actually works, because I've launched some programs that have less testimonials come out of them. I shut those down. That's why I tell people I've launched this as a test group. What am I testing for? Results. Now, no book, no college degree, and no online course has anywhere close to 100% success rate. I mean, none. Sometimes people say, well, online courses are a scam because, only a small percentage of people less than half get success. I'm like, that's better than college. Look at the stats right now. In America, people get a degree, go in debt, less than 35%. That means almost 70% of people go to university, don't use their degree. So no success there. If you get a poetry degree and you spend 4 years and $100,000 and then you become a computer scientist, that was actual mistake. People say, oh, we get to network. And, when you're young and in college, yeah, you can network anywhere. Like, that's a bullshit. That's a very poor logical fallacy type argument. Oh, you got some benefit. Yeah, you were alive between 18 and 22. But what else could you have been doing? So when I think about the success rate, what I'm most proud of, I'm sure, I don't know how to do this scientific report, but I would bet all my money that I've launched the most people from rags to riches in human history from entrepreneurship, not from like a government giving money. I don't even know who's second. I could think maybe Gary Vee is up there with me because he's been going even longer. Not many. And remember, I launched courses, which I got a lot of hate for, but the reason I put my name up there is I gave people a step by step. I wasn't just an influencer saying you can do it and go work hard and go hustle. I was like, no, here's what you do. 2016, you launch an SMMA. Here's how you open your LLC. Here's a script to get your first customer. Say these words, read them. Hi, my name's Bob. I have, Fort Lauderdale SMMA, and I'm a specialist in Facebook ads, and I looked at your website, and I think I can improve your lead flow and get you more paying customers. So I gave them a script, and I showed them how to do the work. And so UCLA has had, I did the math, whatever, a couple 100,000 paying people go through it. I've had 500,000 people come through in the same time. Now, people might say that's bullshit. You compare yourself to UCLA. Well, remember, UCLA is out of the reach of people like me who were born in Long Beach with my dad in prison, to a single mom who made $8,000 a year. So I didn't say I've made the most people wealthy. I said the most rags to riches, because Harvard has the easiest job on earth. Let's take the highest IQ kids with the richest parents and let's try to make them successful. Duh. I could have a pig farm to compete with Harvard in the middle of Iowa. And as long as I get rich, smart kids whose parents are wealthy with connections to come to my pig farm would be spitting out just as many billionaires as Harvard. So people confuse. That's why I say my main thing versus trying to say this one person is that I just launched the most rags to riches. There was a guy yesterday, I saw him at Albert Preciado's conference. I was a guest speaker on 2 days ago. And there was a guy, his name's Ernesto. And I was just on his podcast. And when I went, I was doing someone else's podcast and he was in the audience and he came up. He said, you remember me? It's like, no. He's like, man, I'm the guy who used to wash your Lamborghini and Ferrari.
Oh.
So this is back like 2011. And he goes, you gave me advice on every time I'd come up there, wash your cars, you'd be out playing basketball and I'd ask for one tip. And you gave me tips on how to launch my first bigger business. And now he owns all these gyms in LA and he makes $150,000 a month. That's a guy, poor kid, born to poor parents from, Mexico. And now you make $150,000, you make $100K a month, you're rich. Don't let anybody, if you make $1 million a year on your tax return, in America, you're in the 99 percentile. In the world, you're in the 99.9999. So he's in the 99 percentile So the thing I'm most proud about, not just me, but my team, my company, people who work for me, is we took people that everybody gave up on. Harvard wasn't letting him in. Harvard, you need the permission of a bullshit group. I remember I had a friend go to Harvard MBA and get approved. I mean, get, accepted into their online MBA program. So I told my COO, put my name in there. They rejected me. I said, bitches, you guys have been using my Here in My Garage video case study to teach your Harvard fucking marketing classes for years, and you're going to reject me? I'm like, your professors don't know anything compared to me. So Harvard's, it's a bullshit scenario because they look at people and who are they to judge? So I like the world's now permissionless. I'm like, if you want to be famous, in the past, you needed the head of Universal. You needed a casting agent at MTV or at VHS or I'm not VHS, VH1. Thank you. You needed them to give you their permission to succeed. Now make a YouTube channel. Mr. Beast, when first time he came up, wanted to meet me, he's like, I got 25 million subscribers. Next time you see me, I'll have 200 million. Now he has 300 million people, more than that across all his platforms. Permissionless. He didn't have to ask anybody. He didn't have to go kiss anybody's butt at an admissions office. These big universities are going to be annihilated. My grandparents were professors at Yale. My mom's side is like intellectuals. My dad's side is street guys. My dad's from Harlem. And I'm not against universities. In fact, I think it'd be good for all humans to take one class a year for the rest of your life. You take a class because there's more to life than money. You take a class on history, you take a class on art, but universities as the pathway to wealth, what? The richest people from Harvard are the ones who left Harvard. Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates. I know Steve Ballmer. He told me, I chose to stay for the full 4 years, and that's why I'm not as wealthy. He owned 5% of Microsoft. Bill Gates owned 65%. So I said, the richest kids are the ones who the dropouts, at least in America. In Europe, they don't believe that. But when I tell people, in America, you could tell people I'm a college dropout. It's like a badge of honor. In Sweden, it's like, oh, this guy must be dumb.
Yeah,
culture
it's not
is.
trendy anymore.
Yeah.
I got postgrad in IT, one of the best university in Australia. I used to be very proud to say to everyone.
Yeah.
Now, anyone asks me, I just don't say anything because I feel like they're going to say she's so dumb. She went to uni.
Yeah. Well, Persians love their kids to go to school.
Yes, I know.
There's nobody
Yes.
that's more disappointed if you're a college dropout than a Persian mom or dad.
Oh, yes.
Persians, you need to become an engineer, a doctor,
Yes.
a lawyer, maybe a dentist. That would be acceptable. Nothing else.
Yeah, that's so true.
College degree, PhD.
So true.
One of my friends is a PhD.
But I'm not proud of it at all. I don't want to ever say to people. It's not trending anymore to say that you went to uni.
It doesn't matter anymore. My
Oh.
mentor used to call PhDs post-hole diggers. He's like, they just cause a lot of trouble on like agricultural PhDs. He's like, these dudes don't even know what they're talking about. Now, I do have some mentors that are PhDs. The very best ones are very interesting, but there's a lot of low-level PhDs that are idiots.
They have lots of ego.
Yeah, they're ego, and they're
Ego
like,
trip.
I saw one of these Instagrams where it was some liberal arts college in Manhattan, and they were asking all the people. It was a women's college, and they're like, "What'd you get your degree in?" And it was like post-feminism, Renaissance, enablement of colonialism, and at the caption on that thing was like, "Next generation of Uber drivers," because you ain't getting no job if you're getting a PhD in transcendental, colonial exploitation of the Third Reich. You wasting your time and money. Read a book. That's all you got to do.
I'm going to learn more.
$20.
Exactly.
I can give you 10 books. You can buy them all used on Amazon for $20, $1 or $2 a piece. If you actually put in the time, energy, and effort, you're going to pass by all the kids that are just memorizing things to pass a test.
So how many books have you read? All of these?
Most of these. I have more than one home, but here, this is about 600 books, I think. I had to ship some from my farm.
So in total,
How many books have I read? I get that asked. I need to count. It's in the thousands. It's in the thousands.
Oh, wow.
For sure. Because I've been reading since I was young. Now, is it 10,000? Maybe not. More than 1,000. Less. I'd say it's a couple thousand. But now I don't think you need to read that much. What I do on my tylopez.com/books. I've had this free list for over 10 years. The 100 books I list there in order, I would just read those over and over and occasionally add a new one. I buy, like yesterday I went to Barnes & Noble. I'm their number one customer. I'm single-handedly keeping Barnes & Noble out of bankruptcy. I go there and I'm like, did I buy the most today? They're like, hell yeah, every time I go. And I bought, yesterday I bought $200 to $400 worth of books. And so many books are not worth reading.
What is your number one favorite out of all the 3,000? If we can choose only one.
This is a great, I told people a long time ago, buy this book right here at the bottom. It's called Poor Charlie's Almanac it's The Wisdom of Charlie Munger. And I remember the first person I told to buy this book, it used to be on Amazon for $185.
Wow.
And they wrote me and they said, $185, I'll never pay that for a book. I said, you wouldn't trade one sushi dinner with a bad Tinder date is $185. You wouldn't trade one sushi dinner with a bad Tinder date for the accumulated wisdom, expertise, and money-making skills of the greatest investor of all time. Like, you are a bad thinker. You are an illogical. Most humans are illogical. They really are. I think if humans were logical, they'd be buying 10 times more books. I think if humans were logical, they'd be paying 10 times more mentors. They're all hacks and shortcuts. What's the great equalizer for everybody? I've been in business with 4 guys on the Forbes list. I have 6 other mentors these are Forbes listers, not Instagram guys that say they're a billionaire, right? You know what they all have in common with you? If you're watching this and you're struggling, don't be too depressed. They're all limited by time and they're all running out of time. They're all running out of time, man. You don't even know. I ask people, how come we say how old we are from our birth certificate birthday to now? How is that relevant? What's relevant is how many days left till you die. So I remember asking somebody, I said, you're 40. Who's older, you or my grandma who's 90? And they said, me. I said, but what if my grandma lives to 100 and you die before you're 50? And ironically, he did die and she lived longer.
Oh, wow.
You know? And so my point is, the world's not logical because it doesn't use books, even though books can save you 10 years of mistakes. The world's not logical because paid mentors is seen as a scam, even though a good mentor saves you 1 to 10 years. And the only currency that's actually real is not money, not the US dollar, not the euro. No, it's time. That's your ultimate currency you trade. And so when I see people, I'm addicted to shortcuts, not too short. There's BS shortcuts. If you see something that says how to become the richest man in the world by tomorrow, if you see somebody that says how to gain 50 pounds of muscle this week, we all can recognize outlandish things, but I call them hacks. Hacks go, how can I make twice the money next year with half the work? That's realistic. With AI, you can cut your workload. I have a company called AI CEO that I haven't sold it publicly yet. I will start this summer, but I use it to run my different companies. It scans all my Slack. I have 150 channels with employees. I used to have to go through them every day. It took me 2 hours. It goes through, scans all the relevant things, puts it in one nice report. I've gone from 2 hours to 2 minutes with AI. It scans accounting software, QuickBooks or NetSuite. It scans Google Analytics, Microsoft Clarity, so you can check how your flows are going. You can double check you don't have bugs on your funnels. It can make phone calls for you. You can have conversations with clients on Instagram DMs. So to me, AI is just a hack, right? It's not a guaranteed path to wealth, but right now it's the best hack humans have ever come up with. I'm going to be the first. I saw Donald Trump has an AI dog bodyguard. Okay. They tested it out down in Florida. It was golf. Yeah. You know what's crazy? Remember there was a guy hiding in the bushes, the third assassination attempt on him? I think that dog, the robot dog, spotted it. He had that thing. Now, they're not going to tell you, but through the grapevine, that's what I've heard. Well, I could buy one. I have armed security, at my house I've had for more than 10 years. I'm like, you might be able to get a robot dog. Will make less mistakes, never get tired, and never need vacation.
Doesn't get hungry, doesn't get sick.
And I'm going to tell you this.
Around the house.
If you jump over the fence of a house and a dog robot comes running at you, that's the greatest. That's greater than a shotgun sound. Imagine a dog running at you that can talk. It can talk. It can be like, get off the property. Dude, the guy jumped over, going to be like, what the what was in what I just smoked? I got ketamine. Am I on ayahuasca? So AI and robotics will be, for people who know how to do it, the greatest hack to give you your time back. By the way, for people who don't get on the AI bandwagon, people who try to resist the inevitable, it's going to rob you of your time because it's going to take your job from you. So, like Charles Darwin says, it's not the smartest or the strongest who survive, it's the most adaptable to the environment in which they find themselves. So the great human quality that's more important than intelligence, that's more important than skill, it's the ability to change when you must change and to do it quickly and don't be last. So I know a lot of people follow you for AI. I'm like, take how much you think AI is important in your life, multiply it times 100. Now, for the first time, you have the correct estimation, my friend.
So last question.
Yeah.
What is next?
What is next? Man, I'm building a lot of AI companies with apps. You can build apps now. You can use websites like Replit. You can use websites like Bolt. You can use websites like lovable.dev, where in the past you would have had to hire a couple computer programmers, developers, and you'd have to pay them, and they'd take 6 months, and you'd maybe have an app, and you're probably spend 50 grand, and a lot of times you'd have nothing. Now you can do that in 50 minutes. It's insane. I saw a guy build an Angry Birds video game competitor in an hour. It's made $60,000 so far. He doesn't need the money. It's like a rich dude. He just wanted to see if he could do it. So AI is the great leveler. That's what's kind of cool. So like I said, my specialty is rags to riches. There's a lot of people out there that live in Nigeria, they live in Botswana, they live in the slums of New York City or Atlanta or Missouri. St. Louis, Missouri is top 10 murder capital of the world. There's like 5 cities in Mexico, a couple cities, Missouri. So if you live in St. Louis, Missouri, the world's given up on you. If you live in Detroit, the world's given up on you. With AI, though, one kid, if you can get high-speed internet and a laptop, which almost everybody can, and even on your phone, you'll be able to launch an app. There's a guy out of Turkey launched 9 apps about a year or 2 ago, and he's doing $250 million a year, $20 million a month. He has a productivity app. He has a data storage app that optimizes the storage. I'm going, the great leveler is here. You don't need it. It's permissionless. In the past, you had to go to Harvard. They had to say, okay, we like your mom, your dad. We like how much money you donated. Okay, you're in. Now that you're in Harvard, then you could get a job in New York City, and then you could become an investment banker, and then you could become president. You know, a lot of presidents had to go through the right universities. Skull and Bones was a Yale fraternity that the Bushes went through. Multiple presidents went through that. So it used to be for rich kids only. Even to this day, 75% of self-made billionaires, their parents were wealthy. Bill Gates' dad got him a computer, put him in a school, the only school in America that had a computer in the 1960s was the school Bill Gates went to, because his dad was the richest lawyer in Seattle, Washington. So his dad made sure his son went to a school. And so Bill Gates was coding from age 12. That's why before he was wealthy, essentially before he was even 20 years old, because he had something all the kids in St. Louis, all the kids in Guadalajara, Mexico, all the kids in, Latvia didn't have any ability. So he had a monopoly on success. AI is going to actually level the playing field. So now it's just going to be, you get paid on your merit. But do you adapt fast? Are you not cynical? Do you take chances? Are you quick? Like Zuckerberg says, move so fast you break things. Are you courageous and confident? So now AI will usher in a change in the human species, because in the past, the human species was very privileged. If you were born to a rich dad and a rich mom, even if you were kind of an idiot, you would do okay in life. Whereas a kid who's actually better than you and deserved more was left forgotten in the ghettos of Detroit. Fast forward to now, 2025, 2026, 2027, guess what's going to happen differently? We're going to have a different selection at the genetic level, because remember, women mate more often with successful men. So you actually will change the gene pool with AI leveling the field, probably in some ways for the better, maybe in some ways for the worse, because it's going to make humans less physically active. So we'll lose our physical vitality. So you got to work out a lot, but it's going to make the winners who get the best mating opportunities. That's why men want to win at the unconscious level. The women are going to be the best women with the best genes. I know that sounds harsh, but I'm speaking like a scientist, okay? I have a farm. We're like a scientist. I have cows. We're like our Jersey dairy cows. Bring me the best genetics. They use AI, not AI artificial intelligence. They use artificial insemination. All your food supply comes that way. So anyway, I think we're changing the gene pool of humans. Hopefully 60% for the better. But it is for somebody who has willpower and discipline now, best time to be alive. But the limiting factor is number 1, confidence. Number 2, low skepticism. And number 3 is willpower. You need those 3. Those are the 3 trio. That's the trio of success now in the AI world. Who has that courage and confidence in themselves to take a chance when most of the world still doesn't see it? They're going to be the wealthy ones. Who are the people who have, this ability to go quick? The average human can't go fast because they've been brainwashed into being an overthinker. That's why anxiety is a number 1 mental illness if you ask psychologists. And guess what? A simple word for anxiety is, a simple, slight oversimplification is overthinking. Anxious people loop in their mind thoughts that are probably low probability of happening, but they think about them. I think they late at night, if you lay there and you're thinking about every worst case scenario, scientists on a Hexaco score would rank you high on emotionality and high on anxiety. Anxiety in general, some anxiety is good, but the people who have lower anxiety or can control their anxiety are going to make more money now. Because if you're too anxious, you'll go, well, is AI going to be good? Oh, I need 5 other people to do it around me. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be the first, but the first is going to win. So all of you who have confidence, you can go fast without overthinking. And thirdly, you really look at this world logically and you go, it's never been a better time, man. There really hasn't been a better time. And so you just go, the world is mine. I like what Julius Caesar said, Veni, Vidi, Vici, which translates, I came, I saw, I conquered. That's a good saying for you. That's a great Persian. He wasn't Persian. He was Roman, but the Roman Empire made their way around there. There's some mixing. So I'm going to call you Veni, Vidi, Vici. Triple V. VVV. That's a good tattoo. How come I never see that tattoo? People always have stupid tattoos. Veni Vidi Vici is a good one. Or you can get the one, my tweet, that went super viral. It's like, get your fucking confidence back, because without it, all the skill and all the money in the world won't help you. Confidence is king. Yeah. You have that. You got confidence. So
what do you think of my rating for PACE? Practical, social, action taker, emotional.
Yeah, I invented it.
Because there are not many people that have all the 4.
So not all 4. Yes, very few people. Elon Musk is all 4 of the PACE. The PACE system is a system I created 10 years ago for my salespeople to be able to read the customer in front of them. So you categorize people into PASE, practical, action, social, emotional. And a very few amount of people are like a 10 out of 10 on practicality, 10 out of 10 on action, 10 out of 10 on social, 10 out of 10 on emotion. When you meet somebody who's not very successful in life, it's because they have a very kind of dull personality, and they're usually just one they're strong on. So either they're just a social person, but they're never practical. They're not good at taking action. Their emotional state is out of whack. But you are probably an A, so action first.
I'm 110 with that.
Yeah, but you're kind of social too.
I am 100 with that.
And if you're doing AI and you're actually coding, then I'd have
on the program rack.
Right. Yeah. So you'll be practical. E, emotional. I don't know how much you're driven. I'd have to ask your husband. I'm going to ask him. What do you think your husband would say? Which of those is your dominant side? Practical, action. So
I would say action. Like a lot of people say that there's no one in the world can beat you, because I come up with the idea, execute right now. My deadlines are all same day.
Okay.
When are you going to achieve that? Today.
Yeah.
Enough this week. Social, extrovert, very good in sales, natural salesperson. I had a pop-up store in the street when I was 5, selling everything, upselling to people. If you bid 2, you get 50% discount. My mom was like, how does a child is able, knows about marketing, naturally can't enough the money?
Did she think you're a drug dealer, since she said everybody who makes
Well, that's the thing. That's maybe she didn't want me to be rich because I was very ambitious.
Is she still alive, your mom and dad?
Yeah, she is.
So what does she say about your success now? Does she ask if you're going to Colombia and stuff? No. Are you running drugs?
No, I actually proved her wrong. So yeah.
She's still in Iran?
Yeah. She's actually in my house now. But
And your dad, what does he think of your success?
Don't talk to my dad much.
No?
No.
Is that your choice or his choice?
I think 2 ways.
But is he married to your mom?
No, not anymore.
They're not. Okay.
No.
Is
Don't talk to him much.
But in Iran, do people get divorced much?
Yeah, it's a little bit more common these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My friend that was Persian, his grandpa had 2 wives. So he had 3 grandmas, one on the mom's side, and on his dad's side he had 2. Yeah, Iran.
No.
So no one.
My dad doesn't have to work. No. Not.
He was his grandpa was a farmer up north in the fertile plains of northern Iran. And so he's like, yeah, I used to go visit my grandpa and he had his 2 wives. It's funny that for most of human existence, that's been very normal. And now it's like considered like crazy, even though like all people that are Christians, I'm like, read the Bible. In the Old and the New Testament, people had multiple wives. In fact, if you believe in the Bible, in the Old Testament, and you believe it's infallible word of God, it said the wisest man to ever live was Solomon, and Solomon had 1,000 wives and 1,000 concubines. So does that make him the wisest? Maybe none of us are.
8,000 babies.
Oh, he had more than that. 70% of the world still allows polygamy legally. America outlawed it. You had the Mormons in the 1800s. You had the Mormon Wars, I think the 1850s in Utah.
You know what is popular in Iran now? Trend?
What?
Short-term marriage. Have you heard of it?
Oh, is that because they can't have sex without marriage? So
No,
they get married
short-term marriage is that, so you can have a wife permanent, and you can have short-term marriage, which you marry, then you can define about 1 year, 6 months, 5 years. And then once it finishes, then you're not husband and wife anymore. You haven't heard of it?
I have not.
Oh, wow.
They could bring a new dating app to LA.
Yeah.
It's called
so
Temporary
fun.
Tinder, TT.
Yeah.
Forget Tinder.
It's
got
exactly what it's
temporary-
called, temporary marriages.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
That's what Tinder already is. Temporary relationships. America got that. They just don't marry. Yeah, I think
I think the minimum is 3 months though.
you know what's funny? Last night, speaking of AI, I found the most interesting hack I've found. I've done a lot of hacks with AI. I've left a 45-minute set of voice memos for ChatGPT one night when I had insomnia and said, here's my whole life, height, weight, age, blah, 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 dating scenario, money scenario. And at the end of 45 minutes talking to it, I said, give me 100 weak links in my life that I'm blind to. And it gave me genius advice. Well, I got a new hack, Frank. You go to ChatGPT and you say, I want to talk to you, but I want you to only speak to me as this person would. So pick someone you admire, Leonardo da Vinci, Mozart, Bach, Freud, Albert Einstein. And man, I started talking to it. It is probably the most interesting conversation I've ever had in my life. And I've had some super interesting ones. Nobel Prize winners, some of the highest IQ people on earth. I'd say yesterday was the most interesting conversation and it cost me nothing. So imagine how smart you can get. I asked, should a man get married? And I started by asking, I said, speak to me like Sigmund Freud. And I mean, the answers were a level of, and then I said, wait, what would speak to me like your Nietzsche now, the philosopher? Okay. And then it says, speak to me like your Leonardo da Vinci. Then I said, speak to me like your Genghis Khan. You know what it said? It's like married. One wife is for weakness. Genghis had, I think, 1% of the world, he's their grandfather, something like that. So you can use AI, remember, to get smarter. The biggest return on investment is to get sharper and sharper and sharper. As long as you have those 3 other things I said. As long as you have confidence, as long as you move quick, don't overthink things, you know what I mean? But intelligence is this super overarching factor that you see in any successful person. They're sharp. They're not necessarily Albert Einstein, but they're sharp. Sharp means your IQ might not be the highest, but you're using what you got. Remember, IQ, intelligence quotient, is only the maximum you can be. It doesn't mean you are there. So if you score 140 IQ, you could be operating sometimes at a 90 IQ, which is basically a retarded handicap level, 80, 70, 60. So your emotionality, your anxiety can make the smartest person. So I look for people that are sharp. That means if they got 110 IQ, they're living up to all 110. If they got 140, they're operating at 140. So you can use AI to get 20 IQ points higher today. I calculate every IQ point that you go up is worth at least an extra potential $1 million net worth. So if you can grow 20 percentage points smarter. That's worth an increase of 20 million in your net worth. And by the way, the higher it gets, the more that number gets. If you can jump from 140 to 150, that's probably worth 20 million in IQ point between 140 and 150 because it's on an exponential curve. So a 150 is so intelligent. I've met a couple 150 IQ people. My step grandpa was 155. He spoke 14 languages fluently, but he wasn't a risk taker.
Yeah.
So he retired with enough money to have a good life. But
So
that's why I say it's not just IQ.
No.
I'm always surprised. But I will say there's a lot of dumb millionaires. I haven't met a dumb billionaire yet. I will tell you because you could be a millionaire and not smart. I have met some millionaires, even multimillionaires, that I'm like, this guy.
Hardly that person could give me.
Yeah, but billionaires are always smart. So if anyone watching that's Persian or highly ambitious, goes as a synonym. If you want to be a billionaire, you got to try to up your IQ. Plug yourself into ChatGPT. I saw a guy, you seen this dude on Instagram has the best content. He just goes around, he speaks like 20 languages. He just walks up to people in Vienna, Austria, which is like all tourists. I've been there. There's no one Austrian in Austria, in Vienna. And he just walks up to people and like African guy, you can tell it's a black guy. He comes up to him and talks to him. And he's like, what's your native language? And the guy's like, you wouldn't know it. And the guy goes, I'm from Ghana. And then he speaks to him in the dialect inside Ghana, like a sub-dialect. This guy I don't know, I think he can speak. He's like, I speak all the languages. It's insane. Talk about a good format. That guy's going to get rich off that for sure. He gets like 3 million views on it, on these posts all the time. If he learns how to monetize that.
I have a hack actually for that. How to become intelligent. I use that hack myself.
Plug.
No.
So what's the best one?
It's basically, that was the advice that was given to me by Gary Vee. Personally, I met him. So he said that every morning wake up, ask yourself this question: how can I be more creative than yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Practice it every day. After a year, you're 365% more creative than last year because your brain is get trained to focus on that. I've been doing that for many years now.
Yeah.
Every single morning. Because the focus goes, the energy flows. I think about it. What did I do yesterday? How can I be more clever? And then, I wasn't born genius. I wasn't born an IQ. No, but with practicing, actually it works.
Yeah.
This is my hack. I don't know if anyone else in the world actually share that, but it does work. You start seeing the effect of it as soon as, I would say after a couple of months, I could say I'm very intelligent. I think out of the box, and then over time, it just become out of the box thinker.
Yeah. Well, the human brain is probably the closest thing we have to a quantum computer, right? It operates at Roger Penrose, Nobel Prize winner. He said the mind's essentially a quantum computer. Quantum computer doesn't analyze things in order like binary 0, 1, 0, 1. It can do all scenarios at the same time. That's what creativity is. You're thinking of all possible outcomes, and then the light bulb goes on in your brain. Soon there'll be quantum computers that can do this. That's going to be that's the other big trend. Quantum computers, I'm not sure what's a bigger trend, AI or quantum computers. But quantum computers is outside the reach of regular people. You can't just start a quantum computer company because it's incredibly expensive. You have to cool it down to whatever 0 Kelvin or something like that. So AI is the better thing for the average person because if you got $20, you can sign up to Cursor, or you can sign up to Bolt or one of these AI. Yeah, ChatGPT don't even need $20. You can do it for free.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on.
Thank you. I enjoy it. Did you enjoy?
It was great.
Yeah?
Yeah.